God, today as I pray, I ask these things. Expand my prayer to have faith of a mustard seed on behalf of those in need. Expand my expectations to think outside the box with hope for those who feel hopeless. Expand my heart to feel empathy towards people I never even thought to care about. Expand my reach to connect with the ones I thought were too far gone. Expand my vision to see the need in front of me that I am totally blind to. Expand my generosity to obey your prompting and give without hesitation. Expand my mercy to love without judgment or explanation. Expand my influence to inspire others to do the same. Expand my service to do more with less when needed. Expand my light to champion and love people of every color. And expand my mind to seek justice the way you desire, Father. All these things I ask, Lord, to expand your kingdom in my community. Amen.
So last week we started this new series here at Worship Uncoiled that we're simply calling Influencers. And what we're looking at is this idea of how can we cultivate relationships of influence? How can we cultivate relationships with the people that are around us where we can have influence over one another? And what's the best way to do that? And so last week we started this series and we simply looked at this idea that it is so important that we are quick to listen. That is the first thing that we do in a relationship. We listen with understanding and see things from the other person's point of view, and we slow down and we actually hear with understanding what the other person is saying before we ever begin speaking. And tonight we are going to talk about being slow to speak. So let's jump right into the book of James. This is where we're going to be all month long. James chapter 1 verses 19 and 20 says this: "Know this, my dear brothers and sisters. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to grow angry. This is because an angry person doesn't produce God's righteousness." First, we have to be quick to listen. We talked about that last week. It's so important because if we do not listen well, then we've already hurt the relationship. But being quick to listen here in the book of James is very quickly followed up with this idea that we also need to be slow to speak. We need to be slow to speak. Because here's the deal. If we are slow to listen, we're going to damage the relationship. We're going to lose influence. If we are quick to speak, we're going to damage the relationship. We're going to lose influence. These go hand in hand. And here's the beauty is that they feed off of each other. If we start by listening well, then we are more likely to be slow to speak. And that's the next thing that we will begin working on. But if we don't listen well, then we've already lost the game in this progression. And what comes out of our mouths next, if we're not listening well, is not going to be helpful to the relationship. And so our tendency is to say, if I listen well, then I'm going to speak well. But it doesn't quite work that way because we have to listen well in order to speak well. But we still have to speak well. We still have to be slow to speak. And we need to work on that in our relationships with others. I told you guys this last week that there are moments in our family's lives where my kids have to look at me and be like, "Dad, you're not listening to me." And I have to take a breath and I have to slow down. And here's an example of what that might look like in our lives. Like there may be an argument going on between a couple of our kids, and they come to me and I can tell the moment is tense, things are escalating, and I try to get the story, and they start to tell me the story, and they get halfway through a sentence, and I immediately understand what's going on, and I cut them off, and I'm like, boom, here's how you fix it. You shouldn't have done this. You should do this. Go, 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 go. I didn't listen well. And because I didn't listen well, because I cut them off, because they felt unheard, it damaged the relationship. And I did not speak well because I didn't listen well. But then something else happens sometimes as well. I will listen to the entire story. I will think that I understood. I will listen well, but then I'm not slow to speak. And what happens is I may listen really well, but then if I immediately jump right in with, here's what you did wrong, here's what you did wrong, here's how you fix it, now go and do what you need to do, and I'm not slow to speak and I don't speak in a loving tone with understanding, guess what that feels like? It goes all the way back to the beginning. I'm not listening well. The relationship is still damaged if I'm not listening well and being slow to speak, taking a breath and speaking in a loving tone. Being slow to speak builds off of being quick to listen. However, just because we're quick to listen does not mean we will automatically be slow to speak. We need to work on both. We need to work on both. So what does it look like if we are going to be slow to speak? Well, first, we have to be quick to listen. We have to use all of the tools that we talked about last week when we talked about being quick to listen. If you didn't get a chance to hear that, it's on Facebook and YouTube. You can go check that out. But those are some important first steps. We've got to be quick to listen if we want to continue to enhance the relationship and encourage someone to feel like we care about them, that we love them. And then we have to pause and give thought before we're speaking. Now, you guys have heard this before. Think before you speak, think before you speak, think before you speak. And I think we've heard that so much that we're just like, yeah, I need to think before I speak. But what that really looks like is not only thinking about what we are going to say, but thinking about how the other person is going to internalize what we are going to say. How the other person is going to feel. Are they going to feel like we're coming down on them? Are they going to feel loved? Are they going to feel encouraged, even in a moment where maybe there's some stress? So we have to think about the best way that we can say what we want to say so that what we say is expressed in love. We have to think about the best way that we can say what we want to say so that what we say is expressed in love. Now, this is really, really, really important all the time, but really, really important when we're in a tense situation in an argument. I think so often I personally get into an argument and I try to just speak really quickly. But if I would pause and I would slow down and I would not only think about what I'm going to say, but I would think about the best way to say it so the other person feels loved in that moment, it would make a difference for the relationship if I would be slow to speak. And then the third thing that we can do, first, we're quick to listen. Second, we pause and give thought before we're speaking. And third, we speak in a way that expresses love to the other person. We speak in a way that expresses love. When my kids are in the middle of an argument and one of them is wrong and one of them is right, I have to be really cautious and make sure that when I'm saying now, could there have been a better way to say this? How could we have handled this differently? In such a way that I am expressing, I love you, I want what's best for you in this moment, I want what's best for your relationship with your sibling. How can we move forward? If I can express my speech in that way, it is going to do great things for our entire family's relationship. And if we can begin in these moments when things maybe are tense, maybe when we're unsure about how to handle a situation, if we could slow down and think, all right, how can I express this in a way that is kind and loving, where they feel the love of Jesus through me in this moment? We slow down. And we're not only concerned with what we say, this is really important, we're concerned with how they are processing what we say. We're not only concerned with what we say, we are concerned with how they process what we say. James chapter 1, 19 through 20. Know this, my dear brothers and sisters, everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to grow angry. This is because an angry person doesn't produce God's righteousness. Now, the thing that I kept thinking about this week, the best example that I could come up with for being quick to listen and slow to speak is from an absolutely incredible movie that our family loves called Zootopia. Have you guys seen Zootopia? Has everybody seen Zootopia? Almost all of you have seen Zootopia. Okay, so in this movie, Zootopia, there is this bunny that is trying to solve a crime, and she is given like 48 hours to solve this crime. And she partners with this fox who is helping her solve this crime in 48 hours. And so she's really, really in a hurry. She's really impatient. She's really ready to go. And they go to the BMV to get a license plate number. And this is what ensues. Pay attention to quick to listen and slow to speak from the bunny, the fox, and the sloth. Check this out. Obviously, this was meant to be an exaggeration. But it was a perfect example of this idea that we should be quick to listen, slow down, and we should be slow to speak. Maybe not in like the way the sloth was speaking, like slow to speak, but really pause, let someone finish their thought, move forward with them, and express in your speech that you care about them, not just about what you are saying. And so what does it look like? If we want to practice being slow to speak, this is a huge skill that we can use in our lives. First, we have to be quick to listen. Then we pause and give thought before speaking. And then we speak in a way that expresses love to the other person. This week, you are going to have some opportunities. You are going to have some opportunities to be slow to speak. Maybe it'll be with a sibling. Maybe it will be with a parent. Maybe it will be with a friend at school or a teacher. Maybe it will be with a teammate on the field. Maybe it will be with someone that you bump into in the hallway that you just don't even know. There will be moments this week when you have opportunities to be quick to listen and slow to speak. And as you have those opportunities this week, I want you to try to remember what it looks like to be slow to speak. We listen well. We pause. We think about how we're expressing what we're saying and how the other person is going to process what we're saying. And we speak in a way that expresses love. Guys, I'm going to take this slide right here, and I'm going to post it on Facebook this week, and I'll send it out in an email. And I just want to encourage you to begin looking at this and maybe take one of these and really work on doing these well so that we can be quick to listen and slow to speak. And next week, we will talk about being slow to become angry, because it all builds to this. It all builds to how we react with others. Do they see the love of Jesus in us, or do they see anger that does not produce the righteousness of God? Let me pray for you guys. God, thank you so much for tonight.